Hey friends, I'm Collette from Wildberry Creative Co. And I wanted to do my first YouTube video. You may have heard me from the Designer Die podcast, and I wanted to transition into something that was a little bit more connection with my viewers and friends, and those that I help with business tips and everything in between. So I wanted to give, a background into who I am, why I'm doing this, how long I've been doing this, and kind of go from there. So I am based out of Connecticut, USA. I have lived a few other places in the South, in Georgia. I grew up in North Atlanta for a long time and then moved back up north after college. So my primary thing that I do is graphic design. I also do fine arts. I studied art in college, primarily because I kind of had to. Well, just a little backstory. I've always been drawing and creative, I'd say. In high school, all my teachers would kind of know I wasn't doing the assignment at the assigned time, and I was doodling and drawing. And I honestly never considered a career in a creative profession. My parents actually encouraged that, which props to them. That's really awesome. Not a lot of parents encourage you to do, creative jobs because, people fear that you won't make a lot of money in it. So, I went to college for art and I always wanted to be a graphic designer specifically. That started in the MySpace age where if you're a millennial, you get it. I was out there, when I was in, what was that, seventh grade, creating my own like fancy backgrounds for my MySpace pages, adding my fun little emo songs. I actually created a page where I would sell like layouts for MySpace backgrounds. So I was already like trying to run a business like when I was so young, and always found myself on the computer just dabbling in all the things. So graphic design was always something I wanted to do. Of course, in now 2026, things have changed a lot in that realm. And so I did start a podcast, which was actually a blog. My blog started in probably like 2019 at some point because I was just giving away like a lot of free tips and advice to friends and people that followed me and peers that I went to school with. And I decided, well, hey, it would be so much better, like instead of copy, paste, repeat, repeat, create a podcast where I could share all that freely for everyone that's kind of like just beginning in their journey or small business owners or, anybody in between. So I started my podcast in 2020 when, of course, we had some downtime and it was doing really well for a while. But because of all the politics and things that have changed, like since then, it's been really hard to feel connected, especially just not even being on video, like just talking into the atmosphere. And I am someone that does have a lot to say, but I want to do it in a way that's effective and helpful to people because I think now more than ever we need deep connection, and creativity really just fuels humans. And I think we need a lot more of that. So, although I kind of took a pause on my podcast, I'm hoping that in starting this YouTube, I can really share all my things, all my TikTok videos, all my videos from other platforms, art that I'm creating, which I am a multi-passionate creative, I will say. I dabble in a lot of different things. I don't know if that's ADHD, if that's just being a creative, all of the above. But I've gone down many paths in business, in art, in creativity, and I have a wealth of random knowledge, and I don't want to be like other business influencers out there whose only job is to tell you how to make money by giving them money. I like to really just encourage people overall to get back in touch with like creativity and what brings them joy. And just the other day, I posted something. I started a dollhouse collection, which I'll get into that on another episode, but just little things that like can really bring you peace and feel connected to each other, what's going on in the world, and just, creating is so important and art is very important. So even though I felt like kind of a lull and, wanting to and being, almost afraid to share advice for business owners because so many have closed in the past few years, I think it's also really important to help those that are still out there or just wanting to create on their own for fun, for peace of mind. So right now I run three successful businesses. I am in my early 30s. I started my business first. well, my first design art business right out of college. And how that happened was I was studying, arts and design in school, and I worked at a couple different places. I did find, some jobs that were more creative, like working in a photography studio, learning all that stuff, but I would still do like design for them and, print other artists like work and things like that. But the work environment wasn't great, so I ended up going back to like my tech support job that was on my campus at the time. And actually, my manager there was a graphic designer outside of his management role. And when he had like overflow and couldn't take on those projects anymore, he would pass them off to me. So I got to do some projects for larger businesses and smaller businesses in the area in the South, and it kind of just went on from there. I have worked at a few different places doing like print and design and things like that, but I just found like the work environments really weren't conducive to one, my creativity because, they're timed and you have to be somewhere at a certain place and be expected to output all this work while you're working under fluorescent lighting and it wasn't fueling me. So I decided to, since I was still doing like a lot of projects on my own, I decided to go freelance. And back when I started, that was probably 2018, the world looked very different. So even before, the pandemic happened and all of that, I was already like working from home and dealing with like being a outgoing person who had to learn how to be home alone a lot and work on creativity in that same space. So that was tough. And, I figured a lot of people could relate to that. And I actually flip-flopped from what I started doing. I started just selling like, art projects too while I was in school. And just because people said they wanted to buy them. So I was like, okay, why not? I'll just start, selling art. And I ended up getting some big like commission projects in New York when I was living back on Long Island where I grew up. And, it just happened really fast and it kind of took the fun out of art for me. And so I tried to go back to the drawing board, pun intended, and think about, okay, how do I actually want art to like fuel my life? Do I want it to be the cause of my stress or do I want it to actually reduce my stress? And so I took a step back from doing commissions. I kind of did some markets to sell off whatever I had left and made sure, my actual art creations, fine art, drawing, painting, etc., was more so just for me because I lost that when I made a business out of it. And instead, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep art for me, but I'm going to focus on my graphic design and really, get more business in that. And it worked pretty well for a while. I was nannying on the side to offset like the cost and, getting clients and everything. I will say I've always been a pretty motivated person. I'm a Capricorn. I'm also just a child that, came from parents that didn't have a lot. They had enough to give us. And with that, I just had like this work ethic of like wanting to, set myself up for a little bit different life. And while I was in college too, I reconnected with my now husband, who is also a Capricorn, so that has its moments. And we can just be the type to constantly go, go, go. And so a lot of this and a lot of what I'm sharing and all of that is from process, trying again, changing it, and then figuring out what actually works for me and my businesses. Somewhere along the way too, when I was doing nannying and things like that, I also worked at some art play schools, which was really fun. I really enjoyed that, but there wasn't enough like hours or money in it to make it my career, as well as, I just found like I work a lot better having flexibility of like when I get to wake up because I don't know about other creatives, but for me, I get a lot of my creativity at night. I'm a bit of a night owl. My whole family's kind of like that. And so going somewhere, working 9 to 5, like in a creative aspect, like was hard for me, especially if it was at a place where I felt like it was outdated or, I wasn't getting enough creative input and freedom to feel like, okay, this is my career. I want to grow here. So, yeah, I've primarily been running my own design business since 2018 and some projects before that. And then I planned my own wedding in 2019, which you can imagine it was set for 2020 and how that unfolded. But I did start like a branch of my design business was wedding stationery and signage. I got really into all the little details that seemingly no one else cares about, but the people that do get it. So I started that. Pandemic happened, and so that was a little bit of like really learning about how many people will give up at the first sign of struggle in their business. So I learned a lot about like perseverance and going even when it's not going well and just kind of sticking with it. And here I am, what is that, 6, 7 years later, and I'm still running that. And although, like I said, things have dramatically changed in the design world with the rise of AI and ChatGPT and all these like these problems that, small businesses are facing. I have still navigated these businesses and these challenges and hope that this place can connect us and also just give you how-tos on like little things I've learned, from all my different creative projects. So my other businesses were under like my name, like Collette Noel design and things like that. And as I've honed in on what I actually want to do, I rebranded to Wildberry Creative Co. And now my other business, which is Linen and Pine Designs, which I'll get into that on another episode of all things stationery and weddings. But I wanted business name that encapsulated all of the different things I like to do. So Creative Co, Creative Collective was a way for me to do that and also stick with like my personal aesthetic and theme. Aside from art and design and things like that, my husband and I love to travel. We bought a travel trailer a couple years ago when we moved so we could, still visit family and have a place to stay with our dogs, which I also became a dog person. I was not a dog person growing up. Anyone that knows me will know that. And when I moved to Connecticut in 2021, life looked a lot different then. We were still recovering from the pandemic. And so I was trying to think of ways that how do we stay afloat in our businesses during this time and what's sustainable and what isn't. So my husband invested in this company and he was just trying to be like, okay, let's like, make investments, put our money somewhere, let our money make money. He's a lineman by trade, so he had worked his butt off for many years to get where he is now. Blood, sweat, and tears, literally. He also came from a family that didn't have a ton, and so we worked really, really hard to make that money, save that money, and then start investing that money. He was telling me about one of these investments he was doing, and it was for a mobile grooming company. And so I was like, that's super cool. Like, I'm full on dog mom mode at this point, and our area would really benefit from that. We had a golden retriever that was kicked out of a ton of groomers because he was anxious and all these things. So I decided, okay, like, I know you're investing in this, but I actually want to run my own because, like I do anything, I feel like having my integrity in it and my passion in it and just a say in how that business runs and looks is important to me and something I've, you know, been a part of at any job I've done. I'm always, I work my way up to be the trainer or, educate people. So I wanted to do that with this business. And so we made the steps to get our own mobile grooming van. And it was such a learning process, a lot of time in learning this whole new industry. And what I thought was just going to be one groomer to one van that I just like help out with part-time when I'm not doing design turned in now, what is it? It's only been 2 years and we have four vans and over 12 employees and it happened really fast and that's a good thing and a bad thing because we weren't ready for that. And I am starting this YouTube and account at the right time because I personally need motivation. in it and to see the light through the the struggles of what's going on in the USA today and running a business and all the things that come with it. And so I figured, if that's something I'm still learning, then I have, more to teach others as well and just have a place where we can vibe out together and create and talk about business and everything in between that comes with that. My husband and I have sacrificed a lot of mental work, of free time, of fun to get where we are today. And now we're kind of in a place where we're like, where the heck do we go from here? All I can say is to everyone that's struggling out there, one, really, my heart goes out to all the small businesses that have closed in the past few years. 100% get it. And the best thing I've learned for anyone running a business or thinking about it is it really isn't for everyone. The grass is not always greener. A lot of times that grass is tears and long nights and no time to yourself and burnout and all these other things. And, it can be great too when you have your own income, but small moves can take that right away. It's not guaranteed. And so I also understand when you have to call it quits on your business and do something else that makes you happier and makes you more secured money and supports your family. So I really empathize with all of that. And if I could share anything, it's that, the root of everything that we do as creatives is to create. So I hope even, those businesses that have had to close their doors, they still create in a way that brings them joy. So thank you guys for listening to my first episode. I hope you like and subscribe. I'm new to YouTube, but feel free to listen to my podcast episodes on Design or Die. I don't know if I'll rebrand or if I'll just turn these into those podcast episodes. I mean, I have my like Wildberry Creative Co. logo here, but it encompasses all of my, creative businesses. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, topics you want to get into, I know a ton. Like I know different art methods, printing, painting, resin, dollhouse, miniatures, camper life, dogs, all the things. I know so many random things, so just ask me and I'm happy to share. In the meantime, I'll be sharing what's on my heart and mind and how-tos and all the different things in between. So I think really any creative person can get a benefit out of following along, and I will talk to you guys soon.